talking about a subject which is near and dear to all of us. What I will request is that we hold the questions. I will link what Rainer Fulmich was saying to the reality of our situation here in South Africa and take us through the basic pieces of legislation that actually tie in to the Nuremberg Code. And at the same time, what I'm going to do is to ensure that we also talk about the Rule 53 review application that Pastor John was talking about, which we are taking to the High Court here in Cape Town. And also, as a preliminary aspect, the matter that we are taking to the Constitutional Court based on this aspect of informed consent. Before I get into it, I would like us to think around the time that we are living in. Think around the situation that we find ourselves confronted with at the moment. If you can think of Jeremiah 11, where Jeremiah is told to go to the potter's house and observe the potter and see what the potter is doing with the clay in his hands. After the potter has shaped the clay is put in the oven, very high temperatures. We are in the oven right now. That is the situation we find ourselves in right now. The question is, who is ready to jump out of the oven as compared to staying in the oven till the best of who they are comes out when the oven door is open? We are caught in a situation where we can either look at what is happening and allow it to make us bitter or better. The choice lies in the individual. Pastor Johan cannot take a decision for you. You have to take a personal decision. Pastor Johan can basically point you in the right direction. The question is, once pointed in the right direction, what decision do you take about your life? Informed consent, in as far as the South African context is concerned, is basically premised upon Section 12(2)(c) of the Constitution. It is a guaranteed constitutional right that you have autonomy over your body. That God-given autonomy cannot be taken away from you by anyone, regardless of what authority they believe they have over you. So the issue that arises is, to what extent do you relate your situation to that guarantee that is already documented in the Constitution? The Constitution, in many ways, is a skeleton upon which now the muscles, the ligaments, the sinews are then in the form of acts of parliament. The act of parliament that gives life and protection to us in as far as our bodily integrity is concerned is the National Health Act. The National Health Act, Section 6, 7, and 8, breaks it down as to what exactly must happen in as far as informed consent is concerned. You look at those sections, you look at what is happening right now, there is a violation of literally everything that speaks to informed consent. So now, it puts us in a position whereby we need to ask ourselves, for how long shall we consent to the violation of our rights? There is no way what is happening can continue to happen should we come to a point where we take a stand and say, I do not consent. The reason why it's called informed consent is because it's premised upon an understanding that you've received all the information that you need. You are therefore informed enough to be able to say yes or no. The most important thing is that when it comes to informed consent, you have a right to say no. You have a right to say, I will not participate in this particular process, whether it's experimental, whether it's medical procedure, you have a right. If I were to collapse now and the doctor comes and says they want to administer a particular procedure on me, as long as I am still conscious enough to understand what's going on, I can say to the doctor, no, I am not interested. Don't touch me. And the doctor says, if I don't touch you, you are going to die in the next minute. And I say, yes, thank you for telling me. I still have a right to say no. Basically, what is happening currently is that a lot of people are under pressure. And much of the time when we talk about informed consent, especially when we bring it within the context of the workplace, the tendency is to look at the worker and forget that there are some employers who themselves do not want to have to do this to their own workers. We forget about their protection as well. What I can say is, as an employer, yes, the directive was given by Minister Nglesi about ensuring that you do a risk assessment and make the workplace safe. What does that mean, make the workplace safe? The making of the workspace safe does not necessarily mean you should jab your employees. If they can be kept safe in any other way, then that is fine. But then again, let's think about what it means in this particular context. How is it that healthy people who know that they are healthy all of a sudden become a health risk? How does that happen? As we talk about informed consent, if you allow me, I'd like to take off my jacket. Amongst the first questions that we need to ask ourselves, which is a question that you need to ask anyone who tells you that you must vaccinate. The primary question that you need to ask, particularly at this moment, at this time, where they are talking about a disease that they call COVID-19. The question that arises, is there a vaccine? People are worried about vaccine mandates. How do you mandate something that does not exist to be performed on people? Let me explain myself. Within the process of developing a vaccine, there is what is called a vaccine candidate. The reason why it's called a vaccine candidate is because this is a drug that has been developed with the intention of it one day becoming medication once it passes through the entire process and has been proved to be safe and efficient in as far as addressing what it is supposed to be addressing. So in this particular case, literally around the world, what we have masquerading as a vaccine is all under emergency use authorization. Emergency use authorization means it is not yet the real thing. We're told that elections are coming soon. I talked to Pastor Johan Luthman. Give me an opportunity to address the congregation because I want these guys to vote for me. I'm basically the best person that can represent them. I go to the IEC, I get registered. Before the elections, we're talking now about the local government elections. Before the elections, would it be right for Pastor Johan to come up here, walk with me, and say, today I'm introducing you to Mayor Sabelo's band? This is before the election. Would it make any sense? At that point, I'm still an election candidate. So it does not make sense to be told that a vaccine candidate is now a vaccine. Are you hearing what I'm saying? So that is one of the things that informed consent deserves for us to have to know about, that this is not a vaccine. This is still a vaccine candidate. So it's important that you be armed with this kind of information. Not only should you be armed with this information from the perspective of knowing what this thing is, what exactly is in it as well. Why are we not being told about the options? The National Health Act says that we must be told about all the other available options so that we can decide what we decide and deem to be good for ourselves and not anyone else to decide for us. Even doctors cannot take a decision for us. Back in the day, the scenario in as far as the relationship between doctor and patient was a paternalistic relationship where the doctor was deemed to know better and the doctor could tell you what to do. As the law has evolved and we have case law that speaks to what I'm talking about, the law has evolved and said, now the patient has a right to participate in any decision that speaks to their well-being. What more with experimentation? Because this is still an experiment that is going on. And some people probably don't understand what I'm saying on that. And the country, the leadership of this country has actually put it out there for us. On the 30th of March 2021, Mr. Ramaphosa, addressing the nation, talks about a Sisonke trial. Minister Mkhize in April talks about the Sisonke protocol. The South African Medical Research Council talks about a Sisonke study and then continues to say this is a Sisonke vaccine program. And in talking about the Sisonke vaccine program, proceeds to say this is a research program. In the next sentence says, no, this is not a study, despite the fact that the president earlier said this is a trial. They say, no, this is not a trial. So what is it? If they themselves cannot categorically tell us what this thing is, how do we move on with it? One thing I would like to make clear, as I stand before you tonight, my thing is to encourage you Pastor Johan, when he was speaking earlier, said, go and do your own research. I encourage everyone here tonight, go and do your own research. I'm not going to tell you to do it or not do it. I'll tell you to go and do your research and come to your own conclusion. And the thing is, I have not once seen anything where any of these people actually get up and say, this thing has adverse events. This thing causes these particular conditions, and yes, it causes death. And according to the Nuremberg Code and according to everything else that speaks to medical experimentation, even if chances are 1 in a million, you have to be told that it's 1 in a million, lest it be the case that you are the one out of the million. I see Pastor John standing next to me. Let me talk about the Rule 53, and then we can go to the question. The whole idea is that we've all had experiences with these lockdowns, and they've affected us in many different ways, but the reality of the fact is that for the generality of the population, it has been negative. Rule 53, a review application, entails a scenario where if an administrative decision has been taken and anyone feels aggrieved by that particular decision, they can approach the court and basically compel the decision maker to produce all the documents that they relied upon at the time of making the decision, and also to give reasoning behind the decisions that they would have made. So now what we are basically saying is that there was a decision taken which was announced to the public on the 30th of March, where President Ramaphosa said that he had taken a decision to maintain the country under level 1 lockdown. So we are basically saying, okay, that's the decision that you took. What we would like you to tell us now is the documentation that you relied upon to arrive at this particular decision. The reasoning that you actually engaged upon, what process did you basically go through in your mind to get to this decision? More particularly, when he tells the nation that the survival rate of this medical condition is higher than 95%. If it's higher than 95%, why are we locking down the country? Surely we should be rejoicing that people are actually getting healed. And most of the people who are recovering are not even hospitalized. So we are now basically asking him from that particular lockdown up to where we are now to give us answers. Where businesses are collapsing, people are losing their jobs, and we are basically saying, what is the justification to kill the economy for such a small thing that you yourself say is getting better? And in actual fact, one of the things that he says on the 25th of June, talking about the so-called Delta variant, is that it is more transmissible, but it is less severe. So if it is less severe, why are we going to a strict lockdown and introducing curfews? We're asking some of these questions. We ask the question as well that, okay, you restrict the number of people who can go to a church, but you are increasing the number of people who are going for their own social gatherings. He says that at the time before Easter, people can come to church, but they cannot mingle outside. Everyone must just get into their car and go home. But at the same time, he says that outside gatherings are safer than indoor gatherings. So you just have to ask yourself, which one is he really talking about? And then he says that no one will be forced to take a vaccine. At the same time, he is talking about everyone, vaccinate, vaccinate, vaccinate. And then the Minister of Health, the one who just got moved from health, says something which is very important, which I would love employers to also take to heart, that anything and everything that says you are under compulsion to get your workers jabbed is not correct. She says, no one will be forced, and no one can be forced. Even employers cannot force their workers. She says, in actual fact, and I repeat, employers cannot force their workers to be jabbed. So whether you are an employer, you are a worker, you are safe because the law of the land says so. And yes, there are lawyers who are giving a different narrative from what I am. I appreciate that. And I'm waiting for the day when we come to court and they tell me when the Constitution was changed. I'll leave it there to say, amongst the critical things with this particular procedure is that we would love to send a message. Amongst the ways of sending the message, we will be putting out a notice for all the people who want to come in as friends of the court. There is what is called a Rule 16A procedure, where a Rule 16A notice, where you put out and you say, we've got this case which will be addressing issues pertaining to constitutionality. And people who want to come in as friends of the court also come in. And then there is the joinder procedure, where you apply to join the proceedings. The more we can stand and show the court that this is not a one-man show. This is not just about watchers and gatekeepers. It's about many other people who are also affected and have an interest in the outcome of this thing. Then the court will stand up and listen. On the 27th of May, we were at the High Court, and we were basically an individual who was saying, show us the virus. Where is this virus? We were thrown out of court because the judge says, even if people are dying, this is not urgent. Basically, in as much as she didn't say it in those words, but we were thrown out of court on the grounds of urgency. And all we wanted was, if you show us the virus, and you are talking about vaccination, we are therefore able to determine if this procedure that you are talking about actually addresses this. Because for now, we are told about this, but we know there is this, but we don't know if this addresses this. Do these two talk to each other? We do not know. I'll leave it for questions.
If, as an employee, we are forced to take the vaccine, what should we do? What steps do we take? Or law do they quote? Okay, sure.
One of the things that we have are basically empowerment tools. These empowerment tools entail notices of liability. And one of the reasons why we're sending out notices of liability is so that the day comes when these people have to stand and account for what they have done, no one will be able to say, I did not know. Some of them believe just because the Nuremberg Code speaks primarily about physicians, they are safe. But if you help someone to commit a crime, you're an accomplice. And you cannot run away from it. So the tools that we have are also what we call acceptance of liability. If I say to Pastor John, go and get the jab, presents me with a notice of an acceptance of liability. What the acceptance of liability is basically saying is, if you want me to do this, I need for you to sign up and accept that your entity that you are representing and you in your personal capacity accept liability should anything go wrong. Should I die, my family is safe. Should I be disabled and cannot continue to work, you will pay me till such time that I would have reached retirement age, and make sure that all my pension benefits are also protected, and make sure that I get all my rights. One thing I can tell you for a fact, I don't know how many of these acceptance of liabilities we have sent out. Not one individual has agreed to sign on to it. So you've got to ask yourself, if they cannot sign on to it, why should I accept it? if the pharmaceutical companies can have absolute immunity, criminal and civil, why should we accept it? Why should we, as taxpayers, sign on to the vaccine compensation scheme so that we can compensate them for whatever they have done wrong to us? You buy the drug, anything goes wrong, you take responsibility. What sense would it make? I sell you a car and you want a guarantee that the car is okay. You want to see the engine. And I say, no, take it footstools. This is a Merc. You see it, oh, beautiful, looks nice on the outside. You drive out, it packs up, you open and you find it's a 1970 Mini Cooper engine inside. But I have said to you that, look, I'm not taking responsibility. Then you have to go to your wife and children to help you raise the money, but I'm going away with all your money. This is exactly the situation that we're in. So, my dear, the documents are there. We'll basically let you know how you can access them. And also, we are here to assist. There are some of us as lawyers who have taken a position that, come what may, we will do justice. We will ensure that for those who are being denied justice, we will avail ourselves. I can think of about half a dozen of us across the entire South Africa who have committed to standing up with the people and say, in as much as the law is being used in an unlawful manner against the people, we will stand up. Thank you very much. Please feel free to ask questions. Yes, sir.
How safe is the Constitution with the Chief Justice now not being there? So we know that protects us, but under an state of emergency, it falls away. Is it right?
The question you ask, the first one particularly, is a very, very difficult one. The reason why it's difficult is because what we are having to deal with is an international issue. We were on a Zoom call with some lawyers from the United States, from Canada, from the United Kingdom, Europe, and India. And the one thing that we all were lamenting is that we cannot go to court on urgent basis because our cases are getting thrown out of court on grounds of lack of urgency. How is it possible right around the world there is no court case that is deemed to be urgent? So we are cognizant of the fact that we are dealing with ultimately a rigged system. Some of the people ask, if it's rigged, why do you bother? We bother because we have the intention to at least raise awareness. Even if we don't win, we raise awareness, we ask the questions so that people can start asking the questions themselves as well, so that people can start interrogating issues as well. And then you ask about the state of emergency. May I just clarify, for many people, it has been communicated that we are under a state of emergency. In actual fact, this is just a state of disaster. Though the act itself was not designed for a medical situation, it was designed for natural disasters like floods, like fires, like those sorts of related issues. So we are in a state of disaster. We are not in a state of emergency, because state of emergency entails the suspension of the Constitution. But the Constitution cannot be suspended. So from that perspective, the Constitution is still there, regardless of the fact that in the interpretation of the Constitution, we are misled at times by those who are supposed to be guaranteeing the rights of the people. We will still stand and fight for the rights of the citizens of this country, because some of us genuinely believe that the future of Africa lies in South Africa. And if the future of Africa lies in South Africa, it means the future of the world lies in South Africa. That is the greatness of the responsibility that we have as a people. That is the greatness of the responsibility that we have as individuals. Don't look at the pastor and believe that everything rests upon his shoulders. He is here to equip you so that you can be the best that you were created to be. The lies have been told. It is time now for the truth to begin to set us free. But you have to begin to apply the truth in your life. Unless the truth is a reality in your life, it will never be a reality anywhere else. And you can never be part of the collective vision if you don't have a personal vision. Thank you. Have the next question, please.
I've got the SAMA statement alert here of the spreading of false information by doctors that is obviously now a criminal offense, according to them. What do we do? What do individual doctors do that want to spread the right words or the right message, but can't because it's now unethical and illegal?
What we'd have to do, thank you for that question, is we need to test the law. First year law school, one of the things that you learn is the interpretation of the law. Within the three primary tools by which to test the law is what is called the mischief rule. The mischief rule basically looks at the law and says, this is the law, what mischief was it addressing? So now for there to be a law that talks about misinformation, we first of all have to be clear that indeed is this misinformation or not. If you say people are dying because they have been jabbed, is that misinformation? Because that is what is really happening. The whole idea is that some of these pieces of legislation are designed to instill fear in the people to a point where people cannot speak anymore, where the psychological integrity that is guaranteed by the Constitution does not become a reality in people's lives anymore. So the situation basically arises whereby if there are doctors who find themselves in that situation, there are lawyers who are ready to help them. If there are doctors who would love to speak out and need to be advised before they can speak out as to how we can structure the construction of their sentences, there are lawyers who are ready to assist in that regard. So basically, what I'm saying, my dear, is that some of us are available. Few as we are, but the fact of the matter is that we will do the best that we can. My personal motto is basically, be the best that you were created to be. If we can all aim at being the best that we were created to be, that is all that we can do. And as long as we do that, there is not enough time to be looking for the bad in anyone else. On the contrary, because we are all aiming towards being good, we can do and make a big difference in this world. The time has come where we understand and realize that we have been placed here for a reason. It is not a mistake for you to be here tonight. It is not a mistake for you to be alive in the here and now. Like I said when I started, Jeremiah 11, Potter's house. Remember that. We are in the oven right now. We are no longer the clay on the potter's wheel. We are inside the oven. So you take a decision. Are you going to jump out of the oven, or you let yourself be purified and you come out a perfect vessel? Thank you.